Hi, this is Eric Chase, an afternoon host on Cumulus Media Toledo's Q105, and your host for 68 Words. Perhaps you saw the title and came for the legendary Butterburgers, but you'll stay for the inclusivity. Now hiring signs have been ubiquitous and staffing challenges seem unending. Neither has been much of an issue at Culvers of Findlay because of their family-like work environment that you may be familiar with. But in this store's case, Danielle and her team had zero qualms that Chris couldn't see.
My job developer, we had applied at 28 places over a 2-month period, and I had 14 interviews and got turned down every time they found out I was blind. We would walk into an interview, and of course I had my cane, and you could just hear it in their tone of voice. And my job developer even noticed it, but others just acted dumbfounded like, why are you here?
People, places, and spaces doing disability differently, sharing first-hand experience in our podcast. Inspired by the 68 words that sparked the disability rights movement, learn where it started and what's next. Hi, my name is Stuart James, and I'm the Executive Director here at the Ability Center, and welcome to 68 Words.
Please let me welcome, we have two guests, actually two and a quarter guests today. Please let me welcome Danielle Doxey and Chris DePew from Culvers. We'll spend a little bit of time on Butterburgers and maybe some of the secrets and beyond, but we're here to talk about, Mallory and I both have to thank Tatiana Cash from WTOL, because she came and did a story about you guys, and we're going to steal all of her content and go deeper into some of the questions that she talked about in your story that we can dig into. And the essence of her story was Culvers in Findlay is extremely accommodating to those with disabilities, and that's why you ladies are here, all three of you ladies. One was asleep now she's milk drunk. What's her name, Danielle?
Charlie.
We have a 6-week-old here?
3-week-old.
3-week-old. Sorry, my days are off. Welcome to all the beautiful ladies for visiting the podcast here today.
Thank you.
Danielle, you're one of the co-owners, correct?
Yes. Yep.
And one of your star employees is to your left. That's Chris?
Yes, Chris.
Danielle, how did Tatiana from WTOL, how did you guys get on her radar? Because this is not a story that really raises its hand unless somebody's out there looking for it. And I know I have a friend over at WTOL, John Monk. He's usually the person outside of like Lucas and Wood County. So how did Tatiana end up on your doorstep asking you questions about disability?
Well, it was actually a guest that was just passing through because our location is right off I-75. And he made a post on Facebook about his experience at our restaurant. And he just brought to light the fact that he was waiting on his food. He had a to-go order, and he just couldn't believe what he was witnessing, and how no one else around him was noticing the fact that the person that was setting the orders, that was bagging them and putting them on trays, was blind. And so he made that post, and people ended up tagging me in it and tagging Culvers in it, and so that got a little, it went a little viral. His post went a little viral, and then, she picked up on it and came to our restaurant, and we did a little interview. So
I'm glad she did. I'm glad you're here. Was that person grabbing the orders, was that Chris?
Yes. Yep, that was Chris.
Chris, you're one of the star employees there. Are you completely without vision?
Yes, pretty much. I mean, I can just kind of tell if there's a light on somewhere, that type of thing.
Tell me your story. What is the name of the disease or illness or disability that you're battling?
I have retinitis pigmentosa. It's an inherited eye condition, deterioration of the retina. My mother, who's 93, she also has it. My grandfather had it. My great-grandmother had it. So it's pretty thick through our family line.
How early in your life did you know that something like this was potentially inevitable for you?
Well, I was 30 and just had my third child, and I was noticing the kids left stuff out, left the kitchen cupboard door open. I was kind of bumping into things and stuff like that. And then with our family history, I thought, oh no, I wonder, because typically when you go get your eyes checked, they don't test for RP, unless you've brought it to their attention. And I had never wore glasses or anything. And so I went to my mom's, our eye doctor, and, he tested me for it, and he said, unfortunately, yes, you do have the same condition. But he said, the good news is I don't think you'll ever go blind. And I thought, oh, okay, good. And I mean, I could still drive and all that type of thing up until I got to be about 47. And then at that point, I had some close calls, unfortunately, where, because you lose your peripheral vision, to begin with. And so a couple times I about pulled out in front of someone and that kind of thing. And then that's when, I went back to my eye doctor, and he said, yes, it has progressed, and now you are officially legally blind. And so, I knew my life was about to take a drastic change, even though, I thought the way that first eye exam went that it was never really going to affect me, because it didn't affect my grandfather till later in life, and it didn't affect my mom until she was like in her 70s. So it was kind of a shock. And he said, well, it's slow progressing, and I thought, okay, good. But then, like I said, at 47, I thought, well, I have to give up my license. And, that was devastating. You lose all your independence, really. But thankfully, I went and got a guide dog and proceeded.
We could spend an entire podcast. I'd love to ask you questions, and I'm going to dig into something. Maybe we'll have you back for a second visit.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Mallory can get her Culvers.
Okay.
So I'll keep this short because we can keep the focus
Yes.
on Culvers,
Yes.
and I'll bring Danielle back in a
Yes.
second. We can talk about your employment there.
Yes.
Do your kids have this worry? Because if I was your kid, I'd be pretty frightened.
Well, when I went up to Ann Arbor, Michigan right away, they said my kids had a 50-50 chance, but thankfully, as of now, none of them are showing any signs, and they have their eye exams, and their family, physician is aware of that, because it kind of all begins at night with night blindness.
When hereditary illnesses and diseases are not uncommon, I know there was something that my dad always hammered me and my brother about, a clotting condition. Yeah. Now that you're well aware of this and how much of it's been in your lineage, what do you tell other people who have hereditary horrors that could come down the pike? Just stay on top of it, always get tested for what it could be? Well,
I guess, yes, that, but I mean, with RP, unfortunately, there's no cure, I guess you have, we never know what God's going to throw in our lives that we have to deal with, and, you just have to go on.
We'll save that for the second podcast and definitely bringing you back.
Okay.
Danielle,
Okay.
how long has Chris worked at Culvers?
It's been a year and a half now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
started of June of 2021. Yeah.
And Chris, you, if I got the number right, you had applied or went after about 14 different places and they all turned you away?
Well, I actually had applied at 28 places because, I work with Dawn Coleman, who's my rehab counselor at the OOD. I'd lost my job at Capabilities because of COVID, and they downsized that position. So anyway, there I was without a job again, because I really do need to work mentally and financially. So yes, my job developer, we had applied at 28 places over a 2-month period, and I had 14 interviews and got turned down every time they found out I was blind.
Do you think that was absolutely the root cause why they denied you employment?
Oh, it had to be. And my job developer even said that because, like I said, I was just applying for dishwashing positions. Who can't wash dishes?
I know a lot of teenagers who, I know a lot of parents.
They might not want to.
Right.
Yeah.
You can, you just don't want to.
Yeah. I mean, so, it wasn't like I was trying to really get, a top position. I mean, I felt like that's all I was probably going to end up with, was to be able to wash dishes. And so, yeah, as soon as my job developer and I, you know, because they told me, OOD said, you don't have to disclose that, you know. And so we would walk into an interview, and of course I had my cane, and you could just hear it in their tone of voice. As soon as and my job developer even noticed it, you know, as soon as they would see that I was blind, then they would just say, some of them would kind of try to hide it. You could tell it. Like, they would ask me questions and stuff, and like a normal interview. But others just acted dumbfounded, like, why are you here? And I mean, specifically this one place, he was just like, he kept him-hawing and saying, wow, I give you credit for wanting to work. You know, that's really admirable of you. Like, in other words, though, why don't you just sit at home in your rocking chair and be content? What can you do? You know, that's exactly. And he said, I'm sorry, but we just don't think we have anything that you can do. And I'm like, I can do anything. The OOD will train me. All you have to do is train me. I can do most things, especially wash dishes. I do every day at my house. I have all 10 fingers. I haven't cut any of them off. And at that point, I went to Dawn Coleman, my OOD, and said, I am done. I said, I am going to just sit home in my recliner like my grandpa did and listen to the radio all day and probably lose my mind.
I'd love to ask you, this is again another podcast, this would be this would be off the record, but I can't, and you don't have to answer these, but the things rattling around in my head right now were, which were these places, and how many lawsuits do you have pending, and when are we buying the island next to Aruba?
I know.
Because this is all kinds of discrimination. Like,
It sure
it
is.
checked every box. All right, we'll save that for another podcast.
Okay.
What, Danielle, tell me the process of Chris becoming an employee now for about a year and a half at Culvers, from your perspective.
Yeah. So when she applied, my manager interviewed her, and she had applied for a prep position. And so she walked her through, her and her job coach walked through what prep would be, and they all kind of were under the agreement that would not be the right fit. Because we prep a lot of our produce fresh, and it's fresh cut and those sort of things. So, and setting up the whole kitchen. So it would just be a little more complex. But my manager, Charisse, sat down with Chris and her job coach, and they kind of just walked through every position in the restaurant and said, like, do we think this would work? And, to Charisse's credit, she was the one that said, hey, I think that set position would be something. And we were all kind of like going back and forth, like, can this work? Will it work? And even Chris was like, I don't know about this.
Yeah.
And so they worked together, and, with the condiments and everything at the set position, they're always put in the same place. Everything's put in the same place. So she's memorized, where all of the sauces are and all of that. And it's been a really cool thing having her. And I'm glad that, we decided to bring her on board.
Chris, when you got to the restaurant or for the first face-to-face, did you hear a difference in the tone of voice, knowing that there was some potential here rather than some disdain or surprise and aghast? What was it like, that first meeting?
Well, I mean, like, when we got to Culver's, my job coach, we walked in, and of course I had my cane. Well, Charisse, the manager who interviewed me, she wasn't the one who opened the door. And so the person that opened the door said, go ahead and sit in that first booth. So we walk over there, whenever I sit down, I folded my cane up and I just laid it on the bench, because I guess probably in the back of my mind I'm thinking, maybe I don't want them to see that cane, And so I just laid it there, and when Charisse come up, she started talking, and it was just, she didn't ask me anything about my vision, nothing. It was just like a normal interview. And I kind of thought when we left, and she kind of hinted like, I thought for sure, I was going to get the position. And so then that's the crazy part, because then when I came back and talked to Danielle, which come to find out, she used to come over at my house when she was in high school because her and my daughter were really good friends. So I kind of thought, I kind of have an in here, hopefully, and that kind of thing, because like I said, I just thought, I'm not wanting to be a manager or anything, so, surely they'll let me do dishes or something. But come to find out, like the other day, I said, Charisse, after all this hoopla came about with the Facebook and posts and everything, I said, why, you never asked about my vision, you never asked what I could do, what I couldn't do. And I said, why was that? She goes, I didn't know you were blind.
Look at this rude lady wearing her sunglasses inside. All right, Kanye West, take them off. Let's go.
It was June. It was probably summer, and sunny and stuff. So maybe she thought they were transitions or something.
I'll ask this question, and you ladies can decide who answers it. How did the job offer come about? And then I want to know what your joy was like, what your first thought was, Chris.
Okay, go ahead. You can.
Well, so for me and my partner, we were kind of just going back and forth, and we were like, is this going to work? And like I said, Charisse was like, I really think this set could be, like, she could rock it out on set. And so, I called my partner, and we were talking about it, and, he was just like, this was during, when COVID stuff was still going on, and so we definitely needed all hands on deck, and he was just like, God's answering our prayers. And so, I think that we roll with it and see how it goes, and it's been phenomenal. So
Chris still has all of her fingers.
Yes.
Yep.
There's no condiments attached to any of her clothes.
No.
Chris, when you got the job offer, what went through your head? What did your face look like?
I was just, because like I said, I just thought I was going to have to be retired. I was overjoyed, just because I'm a people person, and I just knew that I had to be out around people, and I guess I also, feel that since I'm in this situation, that I need to try to encourage other people with disabilities, and, like that little song, Let Our Little Light Shine,
We have a woman that we're connected with here named Amy Reamer, and of all my visits here and time here, what she said sticks with me the most. And Amy lost her shoulder down all the way, her arm, into a horrific, aggressive cancer. And she's a great attitude, and she's a wonderful human being. But the line that sticks with me is, I'm the same as you. We just do things a little bit differently.
Yeah, absolutely.
Danielle, there's another gentleman there. His name is BB Schneider, an 84-year-old gentleman, I believe, who has some challenges as well. Tell me about BB.
Well, BB doesn't really have very many challenges. He's 84.
That's a challenge.
He's our oldest employee. And we actually... he is a character. When I actually interviewed him, his comment to me was, and I'm not opposed to moving up to management.
You'll be working for me soon.
But actually, we promoted him a couple of months ago to a shift leader, and he works up to 40 hours sometimes a week for us. And he's
amazing. He's an inspiration.
Yep.
I also have a name here written down. I can't find it in the article, but it's written in my notes. Rick Sadler?
Yes.
Tell me about Rick.
Yeah, so Rick came to us, I think he's been there about 2 or 3 years now. And he had worked somewhere else for over 30 years, and just decided to make a change. And his dad was actually his job coach. And so he came to work for us, and we love having him there. And the place that he used to be a greeter at the other place that he used to work. And so there's people that come in all the time. They're like, oh, Rick, this is where you are, And so he sees lots of people all the time working for us now that, people get a joy seeing him there because they weren't sure what happened to him.
What's Rick's disability, if there is one at all?
So he lives by himself, but he is just, slower to, he can't quite do everything by himself.
Got it.
But he does live by himself. But his dad was his job coach, but now he's fine being by himself in the restaurant, and he runs orders and cleans the dining room and talks to guests and does the hospitality part very well.
And arguably the food has to be okay. You can't pick stuff up off the floor. But hospitality and service is so important in any line of work.
Yeah.
What would you, having been through this now and having people with, I'm just going to say the word misfits. You're collecting misfits because I like to attract misfits as friends.
Yes.
I think I offended a couple of very good friends of mine. I was like, you guys are way too normal to hang out with me. Anyway, collecting this unique band of characters in your cast, how has your mind been opened up, and what would you say to other businesses who still have now hiring signs up who could really use 10 or 20 Chris's?
Yeah. I think the most simple thing to say is it's not hard. I think there's just this stigmatism like, oh, we're going to have to change everything that we have to do. We're going to have to accommodate them. But like Chris, for instance, her being blind, that changed nothing of what we had to do. All it did was made our communication better. Because with the set position and the main person in the kitchen, which is called the middle person, set and middle are supposed to communicate anyways. So it just made the level of communication that much better. And, it just does a world of wonders, because we have, as young as 14-year-olds all the way to 84-year-olds and, abilities and ranging from all different capabilities and abilities, and it just does a world of wonders for everyone because it teaches everyone. I mean, I learn things daily, and like having Chris is such a joy to work with, because she has such a great sense of humor. If something does get missed, she'll be like, oh, I can't believe I didn't see that, and that's just, that's something that you need in the workplace, that lighthearted fun.
After saying you have 14-year-olds to 84-year-olds and this array, I believe in more now calling it a cast of characters at the Culvers in Findlay. I almost think we should take some of this out so someone doesn't try to poach your employees.
We have that happen, unfortunately. We do. And I think that just goes to show, Culvers as a brand. People know that Culvers as a brand, we're open to having anyone join our team and make them a part of our family. Our job posting is true blue family member. And I think it creates a family because
we are a family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One nuts and bolts thing that I think we should go over because you mentioned it several times. What the heck is the set position?
So the set person is the person that puts the orders on the tray. So when middle puts a ticket down.
What's middle?
Middle is the main person in the kitchen, so they're running the kitchen. So they're the ones that send the food out. And so when they send the food out, they send a ticket with it. So the set person typically would read the ticket and make sure that everything is there to put on the tray for dine-in or bag for to-go or drive-through orders. Well, in Chris's case, what the middle person does in the kitchen, so when they put the stuff down, they're called chutes, so they put the food down the chute and they put the ticket down and they'll say, Chris, you've got 4 boxes, you need 2 fries and a cheese curd, a ranch and a barbecue. So they're listing off everything on that ticket for her. She's listening and she gets it all bagged. And then the runner, so the runner's going to be the one that gives the food to the guests. They'll just double check everything, ask Chris, hey, is the ranch in there? And then they'll run the order to the guests. Or sometimes Chris will turn around and hand the orders to the guests as well.
Or sometimes I'll say, I need a runner, please, and they'll say, Chris, you go ahead and run it. I'm like, okay, you'll have to come find me out there.
behind me.
We have a blast.
You mentioned it briefly. It was in the article that Tatiana wrote, and I think that there could be some lessons here for absolutely everybody, because in any line of work, in any relationship, communication is often paramount.
Yes.
People have the best of intentions, but often can't communicate them well. You mentioned that having someone like Chris has made sure that your communication is always polished up and tip-top. Can you expound on that a little bit? Or Chris, maybe yourself, how you have had to communicate. You speak very well. You're very eloquent. Talk to me about the importance of communication.
Well, see, that's the thing, and through all this, the Facebook and everything, I mean, it's all about the team, because if that middle person wouldn't read me that ticket, I wouldn't be able to bag the food. So, I mean, they had to adjust that just for me. They don't do that for anybody else. Anybody else just grabs the ticket and they do it. And so I'm so thankful that middle person, and I try to remember each day now when I leave to thank them, because I'm sure that's an inconvenience. It'd be so much easier to just put that ticket down.
Sure.
But they have to read it to me, and, so I'm so appreciative of that.
Danielle, how about your perspective as someone that oversees a great deal of the operation? How have you noticed the increased level of communication has made the business a better one?
I mean, communication is key, as anyone would say, but it just makes things more fluid in the restaurant. When you have everyone communicating to each other, each position communicating to each other about what's going on, it makes everything go more smoothly.
What's your employee and staffing situation been like over the last 6 months to a year?
I mean, we have applications coming in daily.
Good.
I think our general manager, today is his day off, but he's coming in because he has 5 or 6 interviews set up. So, I think just us being open to, hiring anyone at different levels of capabilities, people see that and they say, well, maybe there is a place for me at Culvers.
Yeah.
I don't think we have, I'm fairly certain we don't have a satellite facility in Findlay, but hopefully one of the things people can take from this podcast is now they're maybe going to bang down Mallory's door and go, hey, you have anybody looking for work that many people might not usually consider?
Yeah.
Chris, I'm so glad that you joined along with this so we could hear your story
thank you.
firsthand. Let's have some fun things. Let's talk about Remy, your dog.
She's one of my favorite things. I mean, she's my eyes.
Yeah.
I can travel independently. It makes a huge difference. Plus just the companionship and, the unconditional love that a dog gives. And I wouldn't be without a guide dog.
We mentioned before we started recording that you would love to offer. You've offered her to Danielle at no cost to clean the floors,
Yes.
which is a wonderful idea. Yes. But if you had to run out of the kitchen for a moment, or had to run outside, whatever it might be, and you left something sitting on the counter, or the fridge was open, what would be the first thing that would go? With my dogs, if there was a speck of peanut butter on the ground, they really like carrots and really any crumbs.
Yeah.
What's the one food she loves most?
Well, if you've had a lab, you know that they love everything and anything. So that's hard to really say. I mean, she gets as excited about her dog food as she scoffs it down, inhales it, as anything that I've ever given her. Mm-hmm. So, up at Leader Dogs, they said, just instead of really buying treats, just give her some of her kibble. So, she, labs are happy-go-lucky, and she just loves anything.
Where does she sleep?
Right up against my back.
So you sleep with her?
Well, yes.
That's what I thought.
Yes.
Yes. You said she's about 60 pounds, right?
Yes.
But in bed it feels like it's 600 pounds?
Oh, yeah, because, and especially when it gets to be between 5:30 and 6, and she wants to eat at 6.
Yeah.
She will start to push me with her feet and kick me to get me to wake up. And I'm already awake, but I'm trying to keep her, quiet until like 6.
They didn't, you thought she was going to be your guide, where instead you're really working for her.
That's right, yes.
What's your favorite item on the menu at Culver's?
Oh, boy. Well, I would say all of them.
You can only pick one.
I know. It's got to be their signature Butterburger.
Okay.
I've never had a better Butterburger.
Danielle, your favorite item on the menu?
Oh, I would have to keep it simple and say our crinkle cut fries, but you've got to have the cheese sauce.
Okay.
The Wisconsin cheddar cheese sauce is what does it.
What made you dive into being a proprietor of a Culvers location?
Well, I actually went to Ohio University and
Sorry about Saturday.
and I
Hold on, wait. So we didn't get
I'm not
farts.
snoring.
We got baby snores on the podcast.
I'm not snoring.
I'm glad she's still sleeping. Look, she is just. Is that what it's like when Remy's out like it?
Yeah, oh yeah. She'll kind of, she'll like kind of bark and make squeals and yeah.
Stop dreaming, guys.
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
and kick her
Danielle.
feet.
No,
The baby snores got us. Yeah, what got you into Culvers?
So I went to college. I got a bachelor in hospitality management. And before I graduated, I was like determined to have a job before I graduated. And so I was home one weekend because Findlay's my hometown, and there was a big sign that said Culver's coming soon, now hiring. Had no idea what it was, but I was like, all right, I'm going to go ahead and apply. And so I applied for a management position and got the position. So I started my training with Culver's 2 or 3 days after graduation. And then, so I went through management training, and so I was able to be part of a process of opening the restaurant, which is a very awesome and cool experience to take part in. And then in 2000, so that was in 2011 when we opened, and then in 2018, I had the opportunity to go through the Culver's Mentor Program, which is a phenomenal program for anyone such as myself. I mean, at the time, I'm still fairly young. I like to consider myself young still. And I obviously don't have the money to just go ahead and open a Culver's, but Culver's has the cool opportunity that you go through a mentorship program, and you spend time out in Wisconsin in one of their family restaurants. You go through classes, and they kind of give you, tools to improve and let you know what you do great. So I graduated end of 2018 from the mentorship program, and then in 2020, me and my husband officially became part owners of the location in Findlay. So
I know, as you probably know, and you've probably gotten comments, people from here, this area, would love to go. If they ever were down in Findlay, many of them would make a stop at the Culvers because we didn't have one for a long, long time.
Yes, definitely.
Last couple of questions here. Ladies, again, thank you for being a part of 68 Words. We hope people always learn something, and you certainly provided a new perspective. We have never talked fast food before here. We now know what a set position is. So thanks for being here. Danielle, I would say, what do you do in your free time? But you're holding her.
Yes.
3 others.
And 3 other kids?
Yes, yeah. Our oldest will be 6 in December, and then we have a 3-year-old, a 2-year-old, and a 3-week-old.
You are going to have to open another Culvers.
Yeah.
Do they know they're all going to Culvers University? No college.
I mean, our oldest enjoys going there, and she gets mad sometimes if she's not allowed to help scoop the custard or, yeah, so.
Chris, you do look phenomenal for somebody who definitely perked up when we talked about the food discounts there. What do you enjoy doing in your free time?
Well, my day just is pretty much getting up and going to work and having a great time there, and then coming home and, hanging out. I take care of my 93-year-old blind mom and my dog.
It's a good
and then,
life.
of course, kids and grandkids.
How old are your kids and grandkids?
I have a son, 38, a daughter that will be 35 the 13th of December, and then a daughter or 37 and a 35. Yeah.
Do they all
13 grandkids.
Do they all live? Most of the family live near or around you?
I have a son in Macomb, so that's close. He has 4 kids. I have a daughter in Florida. She has 5 kids, and a daughter in Troy, Ohio, with 4 kids.
Danielle, she needs a raise. Christmas expensive.
I know. I was telling her about grandkids. I can't buy my my kids, Christmas presents anymore. I got 13 grandkids.
Really, Granny, Grandma, what do they call you?
Grandma,
again, more Culver's gift certificates for Christmas. Danielle, Chris, thank you so much for the visit.
Thank you for having us.
This is Chief Armstrong with Toledo Fire and Rescue. 68 Words has been a production of the Ability Center, hosted by Cumulus Media's Eric Chase. Engineering provided by Will Mellon and executive produced by Mallory Crooks. If you, your group, organization, or business is interested in hosting a disability awareness experience or have other inquiries, please contact info@abilitycenter.org. Until next time, think differently.